Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today is gonna be actually a fairly weird video, but just stick with me please and do not try to skim through it, because I hopefully will be able to put together a relatively sensible point of argument, trying to piece together a couple of things that have happened with Marvel Concert Champions within the last year and the changes and the way it is impacting the community now, and maybe in the end showcasing some of my worries. Now there are a couple of disclaimers as I am going into this video. Now first and foremost, I will be discussing a couple of videos from known content creators, and I want everybody to know that I'm not trying to call anyone out, especially because I'm going to be discussing more so opinions of Brian Grant and a couple of videos he has been putting out. And it's important to know that I definitely do not want to have a dig at Brian. I definitely do disagree with many things he says, but I do respect the way he can argumentate himself, and I do consider him to be a fairly clever and intellectual guy, but as well I do personally believe that he is equipped with a bit of a pillow fist when it comes to actually giving out critique to Kabam, and he's always relatively quick to defend them, even though at cases they are undeserving of the defense, I would say. And even though he often likes to glide over the negative bits and focus on the positive in his videos, he does mention a couple of very worthwhile points which we are going to be focusing on, as well as we're going to be referring to Thekiryu interview video with Kabam devs and a couple other things. So once again, I'm not trying to call anybody out, not trying to shit there or whatever. I'm just using those pieces of content and that information as reference points in order to make my own point in this regard, and I might be misconstruing what those people meant, but I'm going to be talking about the way I interpreted the information. All of that being said, let's move to the juicy bits, right? So we're going to start with the fact that Kabam openly admitted that the Act 6 in general has been an extremely bumpy ride in their 6.4 announcement. That means that they do know that they have messed up quite severely, but there will be several underlying reasons for that mess up, and the reasons for that is because they wanted Act 6 relative implementation to fit in their new general idea, which seems to have changed on how the game should be run in the last year. And as one reference point, we're definitely going to use Thekiryu's video here on multiple occasions, but one of the things that was mentioned in this video in one of the answers, and not as a main subject of the answer, was the fact that they want to emphasize the randomness, and that is where they want the game to be headed to in order to preserve, protect, and increase the randomness of the game, to effectively give you less guaranteed rewards, but give you more option of acquiring those rewards, as in like they want to give you less 6-star crystals, but maybe more access to Cavalier crystals and try and acquire these 6-star crystals. You get me? Okay, that is just like a bit of foreshadowing for what's to come. The bottom line is the base of the story, not the base, but the underlying kind of like storyline here is going to be that Brian Grant has recently left for Loki. And even though he clearly says that it is also largely due to new personal commitments, I'm not entirely certain what they are, the fact that he's not going to be able to necessarily log in when he's needed to work Alliance Quest or Alliance War, and therefore he decided to take a step back, which is fair enough. But then, beepity boopity boo, he also posted his Act 6 rewards free-to-play perspective. A video which I did watch in full, by the way, and I disagreed with many of the points, but he also quickly skimmed through couple of things that definitely were eating away at him. So even though he said that he's perfectly fine with Act 6 rewards because they will give him a major increase in the champions he's able to take to rank 5, therefore his account is still focused on 5 stars and he enjoys the rewards, which is fine. However, he also mentioned the fact that ever since Cavalier crystals got introduced, he got bumped down from leaderboard position 600 to basically 1600 in a matter of weeks, or something similar to the sort. And let's take Brian Grant as an example of a free-to-play player effectively on steroids, because Brian Grant is not currently employed to my knowledge and therefore has more time in a day to actually play this game, grind it out, and push onwards, right? So therefore, Brian Grant, in my kind of like perspective and sake for this video, is a free-to-play player on steroids who has played this game at a high level, never spent a dime, therefore truly free-to-play, not any of this kind of free-to-play and managed to keep up, but whatever. And also, yeah, the fact that he was in a high-achieving alliance, which one of the season's top 3 in Alliance Wars, and often lands in Masters, and they're like top 10 or 20 in AQ, so that is pretty much as up there it's gonna get. And I also am not aware of any other actually free-to-play player who has played long-term for an alliance in such a high state. So putting the most points of his video aside, he did say that ever since Cavalry Crystals got introduced and the fact that the 6-star champions got so hugely, such a huge availability for people with money, he has been struggling to keep up more and more. And in order to collaborate with that, and again, I'm not trying to start any arguments, this is a post by Captain Picard in one of the line chats that I'm in, and basically says, I know it has been confirmed by members of For Loki that Brian Grant was not kicked because he could not keep up with the prestige, yada yada yada. Basically, he did what an alliance should do. Brian Grant also has an example of what a responsible alliance member should do for the good of his alliance. Now, keep focus here for the good of his alliance. In this video, Brian describes in brutal detail what players who don't spend on Cavaliers feel like when trying to keep up in post-Cavalier Crystal contest. So post-Cavalier Crystal contest, let's make an official term, post-Cavalier Crystal contest. So basically they talk about how Brian committed seppuku, as in like he quit the alliance before the alliance was forced to ask him to quit. And that's cool, that's good, that's definitely commendable. Speaks volumes for Brian's character, but also has an underlying text. And you cannot deny that this message has an underlying text, and it basically implies the fact that Brian was struggling with prestige, he was going down the leaderboard, and he was not actually able to keep up. And it was getting to a point where it was either on his back of the mind or his officers and alliance leaders' back of the mind that it will present itself to be a problem. Therefore, you can understand from the tone of the message that they perhaps were even actually relatively relieved and the fact that Brian decided to step back. And that is important to note, because this is somebody who is free to play on steroids, right? So he has more time than most people to grind arena, to acquire units. He's a good player, he's a really skilled player, and still realistically unable to keep up in a high-end alliance these days post-Cavalier Crystals. Right, so that is a very important point here to point out. The fact that Brian Grant was losing his ground in the hero rating of his account, and also prestige race and prestige requirements of a high-end alliance. And largely, that would be part of the reason because the game is in fact currently focusing on 6-star meta. Now, the only realistic way how we can actually in fact focus on 6-stars and 6-star meta is at a point where we can get our 6-stars up to at least rank 2 and at least a SIG 120. Because that is about the SIG level where 6-star rank 2 champion starts to overtake a rank 5-star champion. So it means you have to be, oopsie, dropped my pen. I like to have my pen when I'm pointing things out. So anyways, that means that you have to effectively be able to get at least one of your champions to SIG 120, and you have to be able to get to rank 2, and obviously the champion has to be relatively high prestige, and ideally a decent champion. And that, unfortunately, is something that a free-to-play player cannot do. Obviously, then Abyss comes, and rank 3s become more available, gifting with a thing, many rank 3s as well, and now at 6.4, rank 3s will be a thing, but there are no signature stones. Signature stones readily are really scarce, especially for free-to-play players. Now, there have been about enough offers to take a champion to SIG 200 with generic stones, and then SIG up some other champions to 40, 50, or whatever. So basically, we are at the point where we can influence our prestige with 6-stars relatively easily if you are spending some money on offers, If you have some decent 6 stars, and obviously if you can take them to rank 3, then automatically you can do that. Unfortunately, as a free-to-play player, you're not realistically able to do so, because you haven't purchased any offers. 6 stones, what you currently could have potentially earned in all of the contests combined, is a laughable amount and nowhere near sufficient. And in the Brian Grant, in the video about 6.4 rewards, he mentions that even if they added 200 or 300 signature stones to 6.4, he still would not be able to sig champions up enough for it to matter. And why is that? It's because there hasn't been any 6-star champions or 6-star signature stones realistically available in a bulk yet in game, especially for free-to-play players. Okay, now that we have covered this aspect, and I know that video is dragging out, we're going to be discussing this dev video. Kabam admits it, and they talk about resources and resource availability and all the other good stuff. And I believe one of the devs actually kind of like opened up from the gold question, which he successfully kind of avoided and shifted it towards all of the resources instead of gold in particular. He basically spoke about how game is designed to limit people's access to resources, even if you have unlimited amounts of money, to slow down the progression and make sure you kind of enjoy your natural progression levels. Aside from the fact that it is completely rubbish, because the game has never, not once, tried to limit the amount of crystals you can purchase, and last I checked, once you purchase crystals, you have unlimited access to gold, unlimited access to also different crystal shards, like 5 and 6-star crystal shards. But the point is, if you have unlimited access to hero champion crystals, you have access to the highest prestige automatically in whatever progression level you are at, because you can have any champion you want as long as you open enough crystals and you have that champion at max signature level. Therefore, you eliminate need for an awakening gem and signature stones. And even though the question was largely meant for like the beginning and progressing through the game, we can apply the same principle in the end game. And bear with me, here is gonna come the major kind of bombshell of what Kabam has done to date. So they emphasized the fact that they want to keep the randomness active and live and let the randomness flourish. They do not want to give you guaranteed reward, but they do want to give you more options to have a chance for the reward that you desire. And that's a very, very tricky thing, because effectively it's kind of like a drug, right? They do not want to... Effectively, they force you in an arcade, because if there is something that you really want listed as a prize, you cannot outright buy it or acquire it through any means in the content, but they do want to give you game tokens, and they want you to go and play the game, which is open a crystal or do something else, and they are interested in feeding you as many tokens as they can for you to have as many chances to acquire that reward as you possibly can. And how this is majorly screwing moderate spenders, free-to-play players, and also at the same time managing to drag out the utmost money from any whale playing MCOC. It's relatively simple, and that can definitely be seen in current Act 6 rewards, where randomness once again is embraced. You do not get the set tier 5 CC, you do not get the set awakening gem. What does that mean? That means that you have basically no control on what class resource they're gonna get, whether they're gonna match. But listen to me here. If you are in a position where you have unlimited, or let's say large amount of money available to you for the purpose of this game, you don't need a signature stone, which are not included in the rewards, and you don't need a set awakening gem. Because if you like, let's say, Dr. Doom, only thing you have to wait is for Dr. Doom quality crystals to come about, or any quality crystals with Dr. Doom for that matter, and keep popping them. You're gonna pull that 6-star Doom the first time, you don't stop, you keep on going because you don't have an awakening gem. You keep popping and you open the 6-star Doom once again, and then you have a Sig 20 Doom already. See, that wasn't too bad. So you saved yourself a need for a specific awakening gem. And if you keep going, you can get the 6-star Doom to Sig 40, 60s, 80, and I know it firsthand because I have Alliance members who do play the game that way. They do not have awakening gems, therefore they have to dupe these champions naturally. The only reasonable way how to do that is carry on opening quality crystals. Kabam hasn't sold a sufficient amount of sig stones, so they do need to add more dupe levels and sig stones to these champions naturally, so they need to keep on popping these signature stones. That is exactly the reason why you saw sig 200 Namors in day 2, why you saw sig 200 Dooms on whale accounts, so on and so forth, because if a player has sufficient amount of money, he doesn't need to wait or beg Kabam for an awakening gem or a sig stone offer. He doesn't need to wait or beg Kabam to include a generic awakening gem and a set catalyst or whatever they need. And that is how Kabam has started to work. That is the major change here. Kabam has completely turned around the way we acquire 6-star crystals and the feature champions, because currently with our guaranteed shards we are unable to target anything. Even so-called featured 5 or 6-star crystals have been retuned to a point where we have as little chance to acquire a champion that we specifically want to target as opposed to how it used to be. Anybody still remembers when we used to have Blade featured 5-star crystals, or when we used to have Starking Hands Spider-Man featured 5-star crystals, or when we used to have whatever else, where we had approximately 20% chance of that specific 5-star that we were targeting? They changed those crystals to a way where we have basically 5 times as little of a chance to target that specific champion. And that is why 6-star champion meta isn't also coming in, because if we had, let's say now, Dr. Doom featured 6-star crystals, and if we had a chance to save for a couple, which you easily could, or 3, we would have a really good chance to acquire 6-star Doom. Obviously it wouldn't work for everybody, but we would have a good chance. Now that we have to confront their featured 6-star crystal new method, we have about 5 times less of a chance to acquire these champions. So they have definitely increased the randomness in order to prevent us from gaining the rewards that we want easier. The same goes with the reason why not give us selectors, why do not give us generic awakening gems in Act 6 anymore. Right, the reason for it is because there is a good chance that whenever we open, let's say, a tier 5 CC class catalyst now, we're going to pull a class that we do not have anything great to rank up at the moment. For instance, in my case, if I pulled, I don't know, a mutant tier 5 CC, I couldn't use it right away. Now, I obviously do have some mutant champions, but none of them I would be happy ranking up. What am I left to do? I am immediately incentivized to try and acquire a new mutant 6-star and dupe him, and therefore, quite possibly by extension, spend more money. And whoever at Kabam figured out, and it works, it's relatively brilliant, at least for short term, that randomness means more profit for them, because if they can make sure that there's a little of a chance for us to achieve the wanted end result, we will be inclined to try more times, and trying more times quite often costs more money. And that's brilliant. Whoever made that is a clever guy, except he's an asshole. Because that is also at the same time destroying the game, because there is a certain set level of tolerance that the gaming community can withstand. And this method, this ideology of making anything and everything random, but at the same time offering anything and everything for enough money, is screwing every tier level player over. And let me explain how, right? Basically, at this point, by making all of these rewards as random as possible and making sure that, let's say, the big blubbery whales don't have a relatively easy access to the champions that they want, and they don't have a guaranteed access to awakening gems or whatever else that they want, they ensure that they will keep spending until they do acquire what they want. So effectively, instead of having to open, I don't know, 100 Cavalier crystals to get the 6-star that they want and using an awakening gem on that champion, they make sure that the whales will keep popping till they dupe the 6-star. Or even further, by not offering signature stone crystals in Act 6, they effectively ensure that anybody who wants to achieve higher prestige with 6 stars is going to keep on opening quality crystals till you dupe the preferred 6-star champion as many times as needed for you to put him out of prestige there. And same way it affects moderate spenders and people who do spend and try to kind of play as active as they can, or just spend here and there. Effectively, by offering you a random reward, which has a very good chance not to match with your current roster, it's going to end up sitting in your shelf and eating away at you. As in, like, you have 2 6-star awakening gems and you have 3 tier 5 CCs, but you do not have suitable champions to use them for. That will in itself automatically work as an incentive for you to go and try and acquire more champions, which often will lead to you trying to spend more money if a good offer comes by, or you feel like you like, or you feel lucky, or whatever. Because yeah, if there is the resource, if there is the next progression level sitting in your inventory and you're just missing one part of the equation, you will be motivated to go and solve the equation, and that would be acquiring the champion that you want. I know it for a fact because it worked on me. I have a Mystic Tier 5 CC Catalyst that I'm hesitant to use because I do not have a perfect target, and I'm certainly motivated to try and acquire one or dupe one that I would like. And therefore I am motivated to spend some more money hoping for a dupe or a new, I don't know, Dr. Doom that I could rank up, right? And it certainly screws over free-to-play players the most because they get the least chance of everything. They get the least amount of overall tries. That means that in order for them to keep up, they need to be stupid lucky in RNG. Because if you're a free-to-play player, you're gonna open less Cavalry Crystals. If you're gonna open less Cavalry Crystals and buy less offers, you're not gonna have as many Signature Stones, and you're not gonna have as many 6-star champions. Therefore, even when you do explore a certain piece of content, you have much higher chance not to have a good champion to use those resources on, and therefore you have to go and try and get more champions. But if you don't spend, your champion acquisition is severely slower, hence your roster was smaller, and you automatically get slowed down more and more and more and more relative to any other person who plays closely similar level to you but does spend here and there. So here we go, the final kind of like large conclusion of the video, right? Kabam has realized that RNG and random makes money. That is the point of the video. And they are purposely trying to make everything as random and as addictive as possible. They do not want to offer you more 6-star shards, because if they give you 6-star shards flat out, that guarantees you will get a 6-star. But they do want to incentivize you to go and earn more units, to go and open more Cavalry Crystals, for a chance of a 6-star champion. Kabam does not want you to have a generic 6-star awakening gem. Kabam does not want you to have generic signature stones or any signature stones for that matter, because that would make sure that you can match the resource up easier. Kabam wants to give you an awakening gem, just random one, because likely you're not going to need it yet. Kabam wants to give you a tier 5 CC catalyst or fragments, just random ones, because it's very likely that it's not going to be the one that you need, and you'll have to work on your account to make sure you can use those resources. And that is quite simple but very effective loop. The more things are random, the harder it is to match to work for you. And the more you're incentivized to play, accomplish, explore. Unfortunately, it also fucking sucks and is extremely frustrating. And here we are at the problem where I believe that they have crossed the line. I believe that Kabam has taken things too far. And I believe that they also realize that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be commenting that Act 6 has been a bumpy ride. Because again, it had been designed to enforce this randomness. If you think about it, Act 6 is the only piece of content that requires you to have basically scalpel precision roster. There is 1 or 2 champions that work for content perfectly, and the rest of it is going to be a nightmare. There are certain fights more so than anywhere else in the game, that you only have a handful of options for. And they are silly specific. Even in the next 6.4, you need to have prowess. There are like 5 champions with prowess. You need to have power sting. There are like 5 champions with power sting. So that means they make more specific nodes in order to encourage you to acquire the specific champions. Not to make the fights difficult, just to make it as in like an entry fee. You need to have this champion to pass this piece of content. And it's working for them to a degree, but at this point, it's starting to backfire because there is a huge community backlash on Act 6 as a whole and a lot of states in the game in general because they have overplayed their hand, I think. With 6.2, they definitely overplayed their hand, and I believe in 6.3 and 6.4 as well. So, the question, I guess, is to you now. What do you think is the best possible scenario out of this system? Out of this randomness regime that's designed to milk everybody? Because again, think it over in your head. It's designed to make sure that if you're a whale, you're going to spend the most dollar that they can possibly get out from you. If you're a moderate spender, it's designed and encouraged for you to increase and continue spending. And if you're a free-to-play player, it's designed to slowly but surely welcome you into moderate spending range or realize that you will never catch up. So I guess, yeah, the question is, do you agree? Or better question is, what would you do in order to get out of this situation? Because it definitely is an extremely frustrating place. And this also has been an extremely long rant. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm not entirely sure whether it's a good idea to make this video in the first place or how factually accurate I have been, but that is where my brain is at currently. Kabam has been pushing as much randomness in a game on purpose, as well as specific fights in order for you to try and open more, to try and spend more, to try and get more of these resources, and to have as little guaranteed value as possible. And that would certainly correlate with current events in game, in my opinion. But hey, maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm an idiot. And if I'm an idiot, you can certainly leave a #idiot in comment section and tell me what you think I'm missing or what do you think is happening in the game. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.